Welcome to the Simplified Dentistry Podcast. Join us as we discuss clinical, operational, and financial aspects of your practice, help you enjoy life, and dare to simplify dentistry.
I'm Richard Offutt. I'm here today with Mr. Tim McNeely of Dental Wealth Nation. He's also the author of the book by the same name, Dental Wealth Nation.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, Oral Arts Dental Laboratories. Oral Arts is a full-service dental lab based in Huntsville, Alabama, serving dentists nationwide with high-quality, U.S.-made prosthetics and orthodontic appliances. Oral Arts combines advanced technology with personalized service to deliver reliable, affordable solutions that support patient care. Oral Arts is one of the few labs that meets the standards to be part of my team. Take a look at oralartsdental.com.
I'd like to have some conversation about, I totally enjoyed your book, Tim. It was, I think it's a must read for all experienced dentists that are kind of heading into that middle decade of their career.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I would suggest that all of our listeners get that. And in fact, Tim, you had even offered to provide that for them, which is
100%.
So I'll tell you what I'd like to talk about. I'd like you to talk about, Tim, just some definitions for our dental folks. You know, I mean, let's talk about, you know, one of the things that I think is going to, you know, Tim, are you a teacher? Are you an advisor, or are you both?
Yes, I'm both.
And how does that work?
Well, you know, I'm a teacher because you have to understand what you're doing. Like you want someone to actually explain things, just like in dentistry, right? You have to kind of teach your patients a little bit about your treatment. You know, you don't want them to necessarily, you know, be overwhelmed by all the technical aspects of what you're doing, but you have to teach them like, hey, here's why a crown's important. Here's why a cleaning's important. So I'm a teacher in that sense, but I'm also an advisor because the doctors don't want to get their hands dirty. They don't want to do their own dentistry in their own mouth. They want to hire someone, but they want to understand it, and they want to get advice from someone who actually understands the things that are out there and who can pull from all the different resources and help get them to where they want to go. So yes, I'm both teacher and advisor. Because I think you have to be a teacher to be an advisor.
Yes, that's where I was going to structure a question to kind of get close to that area, but you nailed it. Well, in your role, and you work a lot with dentists, and what I'd like just to explain is, what is wealth management?
Wealth management is one of those buzzwords that gets tossed out there. And a lot of times to most people, wealth management deals with investments alone. It's dealing with just what's in your investment portfolio. But the truth is that's not wealth management. That's investment consulting. And investment consulting certainly plays a role in wealth management. It's one of the elements, but it's not the whole picture. Really, wealth management, there's three components to this. The first component is investment consulting. The second component is advanced planning, which is all the strategies beyond the investment portfolio. And lastly, there's relationship management. And that's having the team of people to help you build and implement all those advanced planning strategies.
When I listen to you and read, you know, when I hear you on podcasts and listen and read your book, I love the examples that you give. You know, we are trying to serve dentists that are established. They at least aspire to that level, right? And so one of my favorites is if you talk for a minute about Dr. Do It Yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dr. Do It Yourself. That's one of the examples I give in my book, because, you know, so often you start off and you have to wear all the hats in your practice. I know I certainly helped my wife, and in my business, like I was wearing all the hats. I was doing the marketing, I was doing the planning, I was doing the HR, I was doing the payroll. Like you start off wearing all the hats. And that's kind of what Dr. Do It Yourself is. It's the person who started off doing everything, and you've still held on to doing everything. So you're still trying to put together your team for investments. You're still trying to put together your team for the financial statements. You're still trying to do the marketing and run your Facebook. But the truth is that all gets in the way from you focusing on what you're great at, which is really growing and building your practice. And to hit that next level, you got to start letting go of those things. That's what the super rich do so well, is they delegate things that they are not good at. And one of my biggest mistakes in life, Richard, is I tried to focus on getting better at my weaknesses. I tried to get better at the things I wasn't so good at. That
Right.
was a mistake. I started getting better when I started making my strengths stronger. And I started delegating out the things I wasn't so good at. And so by trying to do so many things yourself, you get in the way of actually excelling at what you're good at.
You talk in your book, Dental Wealth Nation, so much about playing from your strengths. So it's great to hear you talk about that. But I guess our focus here, or not necessarily our focus, but our is the doctor middle career. Um, Tim, what steps does a doctor need to take when they're hitting that mid-career? Say they've been in practice 10 years, they're doing pretty well. They've paid off their school debt. If they bought a practice, they're done with paying for that. And hopefully they've been accumulating wealth as they go along. But what key steps does doctor mid-career need to take?
The key steps for doctor mid-career is you've reached that place, and you just outlined that so well. Is right. You've been in your practice for a while. You've paid off some debt, and now your cash flow is probably really ramped up. One of the key steps you need to do is make sure that you don't start spending that income on things you don't need. And this is a mistake I see so often is people get the bigger house. Like, go get the bigger house. Like, that's cool, but don't make it a big stretch for yourself, right? Don't stretch beyond what you can really afford, because you want to take that income and you want to figure out like what's next. You want to get a clear plan for what your eventual exit looks like. And so many people think, well, I'm not close to my exit yet. Like, that's still another 10, 20 years off. Well, the truth is, good exit planning is just good business planning. So as a mid-career practitioner, this is where getting focus and clarity for what's next is so important, because that focus and clarity is going to help you figure out, how do you invest that additional cash flow? Do you buy that new house? Do you ramp it into retirement plans? Do you acquire real estate? But you got to have a clear plan for where you want to go. And if you have that clear plan, all of a sudden, all the strategies, all the tactics, they're going to fall right into place.
I'm here today with Tim McNeely, and we're talking about different kinds of doctors. We had Doctor Do It Yourself, we had Doctor Middle Career, and we have to finish this segment with, what about Doctor Exit? When should Doctor Exit start his exit planning?
So if Dr. Exit did things right, he started the day he bought his practice. She started preparing for exiting from day one by building systems, by building processes, by investing in staff so that you have a valuable, sellable business. And so often what I see in dentistry is there's really only two kinds of businesses. And I know you're thinking like, Tim, that's crazy. How are there only two kinds of businesses? But the reality is you have a business that's a lifestyle business that's focused on providing you as the owner a nice income, but not necessarily a lot of enterprise value. The other side of the coin is a value creation business. And the value creation businesses are the ones where you get the great multiples because you've actually created something that someone else wants. So as the doctor preparing to exit, right, focus on like what kind of business do you have? Be paying attention to your values, and more importantly, how can you drive those values, right? Pay attention to your costs. Like, cost is so important in this stage. If we can add some more money to the bottom line and grow the top line, you're going to get some multiple of that when you exit. So get that right team around you to work on that value acceleration piece, but start early. Start before you have to exit, because if you start when you have to exit, it's often too late.
What was very, very important to me when I read your book, Dental Wealth Nation, is that your investment in the relationship, understanding your client. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this is where I see a lot of advisors go wrong. They sit down with someone And the first thing out of their mouth is, how much money do you have? What's in your IRAs accounts? What's in your 401ks? What's your asset allocation look like? And all that is really, really important. But if you don't actually understand why those assets exist and what's important to the person behind you, you're going to end up with a lot of wrong answers. So for me, I always start with values. Like, what's important about money to you? What are the views? What are the beliefs that help shape those things? Then, like, what are your actual goals? What are you trying to achieve beyond the investment portfolio? Like, yes, that's all important, but we got to figure out, what does that big picture plan look like? Then we dive into the most important relationships in your life. Relationships matter. That's why many of you get up every day, is to help support the people you love, the causes you care about, and make a meaningful impact in the world. And if the advisors you're working with don't know what those things are, you're going to get the wrong kind of results, because they're not tied to your most important values of goals. So for me, that discovery process is not just an event that happens one time, it happens throughout the relationship. So you want advisors who are spending the time getting to know you. And interestingly enough, this is why the super rich, this is why they build family offices. They want a team of advisors who actually understand them, understand their goals, and are devoted to helping them achieve the results they want. Not trying to pitch product, not trying to push them in a direction or take them down this strategy or that strategy. You have a team dedicated to understanding that family and the results that the family want. Then all the strategies flow out of that.
Tim, is the simplest part the investment consulting?
So these days, the investments have become kind of commoditized. It's harder to add value through investments alone. It's not saying it can't be done. There's still some unique things in the marketplace, but a lot of advisors, they have the same portfolio, and they don't necessarily like to talk about that. They'll try to wow you with all the all the pie charts. But the truth is, like, let's say we do get you an extra 1% a year. Like that's meaningful, but how does that compare to saving you $250,000 when you sell your business? Like where are you really going to get the results? And what's interesting is, when we look at advisors, they're mainly focused on the investment consulting part. And a lot of them aren't providing the wealth enhancement, which is the tax mitigation strategies. They're not working on the tax reduction piece. They're not working on asset protection. And they're certainly not doing a lot in the charitable gifting realm and tying all those together in a holistic plan. So yeah, the investments tend to be commoditized, even though, like I said, there is some opportunity to add value through alternatives and other things that can be done.
Tim, so we cannot play every instrument in band, right? You can't play every instrument. I can't play every instrument. So talk to us a little bit about the virtual home office, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. So years ago, this is the situation I found myself in. I had just married a beautiful dentist. I was a certified financial planner. I thought I knew it all. I had all the book knowledge. I had passed the test. But what was interesting is, as I got to know my wife and her practice, I realized I actually didn't have any real knowledge in what was going on, right? I was the musician who had studied musical theory, but I had never actually played in the band. That doesn't lead to really good results, as you can imagine.
You are right. You are right, sir.
And so I realized, like, I had to fix this problem. Either I was really going to step up and become a wealth advisor, or I had to find another career, because I was miserable, right? Imagine me, that band member who can't play a band instrument. It's insanity. So I actually reached out. I hired some of the best coaches and consultants in my industry and started building a team. I realized I wasn't the band member. I was the band conductor. That was my role, was to bring in the best musicians to play the different parts in my wife's life. We had to bring in the right tax advisor. We had to bring in the right consultants. We had to bring in the right retirement plan experts. We had to bring in the right marketing people. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was really building a family office for us. I was trying to assemble a team of the best individuals to help us not just optimize her practice, but also our financial world too, and everything that we have going on. And through that process, things start to get a lot better, because we had people working for us, helping us achieve our goals. And it wasn't just a referral back and forth. This was deep collaboration of actually team members talking to each other, right? Imagine, once again, going back to your band analogy, which I love, right? You say, hey, I can refer you to a bass player. Well, what part are they supposed to play? I don't know. He'll play his part. The trumpet player is going to play their part. The tuba player is going to play. It's going to be chaotic because no one's collaborating together. That's what most of the financial world is like today, is you have the CPA who's not talking to the wealth advisor, who's not talking to the estate planner, who's not talking to the insurance specialist, who's not coordinating with the retirement plan advisor. No one knows what's going on. They're all playing different notes. And that's why so many people have chaos in their financial life today.
So, Tim, the strategy, you pull in the expertise when you need it. Is that, is
Yeah,
that?
yeah, great question, Richard. That's one of the benefits of a virtual family office is for most driven dental entrepreneurs, you're going to need a top-notch exit advisor once, twice in your career. A family office who does this, you may need an exit advisor a couple times a year because you're always involved in these transactions. So what a virtual family office does is it really takes that assessment of your current team, what's working, what's not. Do you need to replace someone, improve some strategies with them? And then it's the ability to bring in those experts on an as needed basis, which helps keeps costs low. And it really helps bring down that strategy of the super rich of having a family office and makes it available to a lot more people without having to have a 10-figure net worth.
Tim, in your book, which I totally enjoyed, and I recommend to all of our viewers or listeners, there's one part that's tremendously humbling, or there's many parts, but there's one part that makes me sad, and that's when you talk about the pretender, the predator, and the exploiter. And without casting stones, talk a little bit about those three: the pretender, the predator, and the exploiter.
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Richard. And these are really real types of advisors out there. And the first one, that predator, they are out there. So I will name names on that one because you all know a lot of these names, like Bernie Madoff. He was a predator, right? One of the largest Ponzi schemes ever ran. He was in the industry not to benefit anyone else but himself. That is a predator. They're out to take advantage of you. Then you also have pretenders, and pretenders, there's a lot more of those than predators. So the predators are rare, and you have to be aware of them. But I don't think most people are working with predators. Most people are actually working with pretenders, though. What's a pretender? A pretender is a well-meaning advisor, someone who wants to help you out, but they just don't have the technical expertise to really serve you well. So, for example, if one day I decided, hey, I like this dentistry thing, I think I want to go practice dentistry, I would be a pretender because I would be well-meaning, like I really want to help improve your oral health care, but I have zero technical expertise and zero reason to be in someone's mouth. That's a pretender. And unfortunately, and the data shows this, in the financial advisory world, there are a lot of pretenders. My wife worked with one early on in her career. It was an insurance agent who sold her a disability policy, but didn't have the technical expertise to help her set it up in a way that created tax-free income. Missed opportunity because it was a pretender. And so yeah, pretenders, predators, and then you also have elite wealth advisors. And the elite wealth advisors are the ones who have the technical expertise. They want to benefit you, and they want to help you get the right advice. So you really got to make sure you're working with the right kind of advisors out there.
Tim, I'm going to put it to you in straight up. What do you wish you had done differently with your career?
Oh, you know what? I kind of alluded to this earlier with one of my biggest mistakes I ever made, and that was trying to focus on making my weaknesses better, right? You want to acknowledge your weaknesses, know that they're there, but hire the right people to step in the areas where you're weak. Like just focus on your strengths, make your strengths as strong as possible. And that was a lesson that took me a long time to learn, right? I was trying to hire the right people. I was trying to build the right team. And I wasn't really any good at that. But when I finally said, you know what, this is not my strength, I'm going to find the person who is good at that, things started getting a whole lot better. Client results started getting better. I started enjoying my business more. So you really got to focus on what's important. And that to me is the thing I wish I would have done differently is focused on my strengths a whole lot sooner.
Tim, I'm going to ask you a question. How do you see the future for dentistry?
Oh, the future I think is bright, really, really bright. I still think it's one of the greatest industries out there. But in terms of some specifics, so my crystal ball is usually wrong, but I'll toss out a couple guesses. I do see a lot of the M&A activity continuing to speed up. I think we're in this great wave and this kind of great space right now with a lot of opportunity being created for doctors who want to build and grow practices. Massive opportunity out there. That consolidation wave is still happening, and I think that there's really going to be a growth of kind of what I call kind of like the super GP and the privately owned practices with a doctor who's able to really build a niche, know their clients and serve them well. That practice is going to flourish more than ever before because you know what? You're going to have that opportunity to go next to that big DSO right next door or get some really personalized care right next door. And there's going to be people who say, no, I don't want that Walmart experience. I want the private practice. So I think for the right private practice out there, there's going to be a major opportunity. I also see a lot of growth just in terms of kind of, outsourcing the services, because running a business is hard. And so you're going to see some growth of platforms out there that really enable doctors to offload a lot of the management of dentistry and a lot of the business of dentistry so they can just focus on being dentists.
And I think what I would say, Tim, what would be one thing that our listener, when he wakes up tomorrow, what is one thing that he can put into place tomorrow?
Hmm. Well, I would have to say it's get clarity, right? Without knowing each one of you and what's important to you, it's hard to say go do this or go do that. But the thing I can tell will benefit every single one of you is getting clarity on what's most important. And the way you can do this is simply take a moment and say, where do I see myself in 36 months? Not 10 years, not 20 years, like where do you see your practice? Where do you see your life in 36 months, 3 years from now? And start dreaming through that, right? What does your office staff look like? What are the people saying? What are your patients saying? Get some clarity on what is your practice and what does your life look like in 36 months. So don't create a business plan of how to get there. Just create the vision of what you want. You can do that first thing tomorrow morning.
That's what I've got. I'll answer anything for you, anything you'd like me to answer.
Well, I love that question, right? You are so connected to the industry and really wanting to help the dentist out there, progress more. So where do you see the industry going?
I think it's a golden industry. I do. And I don't mean golden meaning monetary. I think that it's an industry that has has given so many people a tremendous opportunity. And I think that what each of us, each practitioner does with it is totally, it's whatever they want it to be. It's what they can imagine. Whatever they imagine, they can make happen just by building blocks. You put one foot in front of the other and you follow a plan. I can't stress enough the idea of making a plan, working the plan. I think that's so important.
Yeah. Now, also in the industry, right? You've had a fair amount of success. You've seen a lot of stuff. If you can go back and talk to your younger self and give yourself some advice, what would you tell yourself?
I've thought about this a lot. And what I would do is I would start collaborating much earlier in my career.
Mhm.
I ran a specialty practice, so I had a lot of collaboration on a daily basis with other practitioners. But what I would have done is I always had satellite offices and I always worked them myself. I would have brought in partners much earlier in my career. They might not have been full partners, they might have been a sub, but I would have brought in more doctors into the practice. I just was hesitant to do that.
Okay. Oh, I love that answer, Richard. So good. And then Richard, right? Thinking about the future of simplified DDS, like where do you see this going? What's your hope for the community that you're building?
Simplify is quite unique. We are people that are the founders are people that have done a lot of things in dentistry, practiced for a long time, built companies, built DSOs, sold companies, sold DSOs. We've seen a lot of the tricks or what goes on in the space. So for Simplify, what we want to do is provide a voice for those dentists that don't have it. Being a dentist, you're out by yourself many times in your practice. A lot of doctors do not collaborate, as we talked about, with other doctors in their practice, and
Hmm.
it can be kind of a lonely deal. So what we try to do is bring industry expertise, both clinical and operational, to the group. And because then people can ask questions. We can bring in CEOs from companies. We can bring in leading clinicians because we have relationships with them from all these years of being in the business. So are we the right group for the young gal or guy in dental school? Probably not. You probably need to have had a few miles in order to really be able to check into what we're talking about. Just like with talking with you, Tim, you got to have done a few things to be able to understand that you do need people like Tim.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you mentioned something earlier too in that statement, right? Just that idea of right? Kind of pushing forward in the collaboration piece. And it made me wonder, why don't you think you see more collaboration in the industry?
I think some of it is, doctor, do it yourself.
Hmm.
The dentists are very independent. It's kind of a cottage business. You're out by yourself doing your thing. I'm not sure. I know in my personal situation, and I'll be happy to share that, is that I was adverse to the financial risk of
Mm.
bringing in other doctors. I had a pretty big life. I had, 4 kids in private schools and prep schools and private colleges and a couple of houses and all these things. And I was doing phenomenally well. And I just didn't want to build risk that I couldn't manage into that formula. So that was the big reason I didn't collaborate many years ago with and have a partnership and bring in other doctors and build out a platform that was much larger.
Hmm.
But we all live and we learn, and that's why when you said what would be my mistake, if you ask me that, it would be that it'd be failure to collaborate earlier in my career.
Well, it reminds me of one of my favorite proverbs that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And I'm such a big believer in that, right? The journey's a lot more fun with other people.
No, you're exactly right. If you want to run fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go with others. And I think that is true in so many parts of life, right? I mean, it's kind of one of those life lessons
Yeah,
that you learn, you have to learn, but you have to have seen both sides of the coin to know that.
yeah,
We don't
absolutely.
automatically have that, inherent knowledge.
Hmm. Yeah, it took me a couple laps around the racetrack to figure out, wait, this
Yeah.
isn't working so well.
Yeah, many times you have to get banged up a little bit too,
Yeah,
right?
100%. So, well, hey, no, I love what you're doing with the community. So many exciting things there, and I love that you are bringing that collaboration piece and helping the doctors not have to operate in a silo and be alone in this journey.
Tim, thank you so very much. It's a pleasure to be talking with you. I respect your knowledge, and I think you've presented such a unique opportunity to our profession. Regardless of where you are in your career, I imagine that the doctor middle career is probably the wheelhouse, but it doesn't mean that if you're new in practice that you can't aspire to build the team that Tim is talking about. And I appreciate you sending me your book and letting me read it and talk about it. And it's been a great day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to do something special for all your listeners too. I will send you a digital copy of Dental Wealth Nation, and anyone who wants it, they can contact you or however you want to make that available. Happy to make that available to all your listeners.
Tim, thank you so much. I look towards getting that, and hopefully we can send that to a good bit of our people. And because I think your message is really quite on target, especially as doctors try to accumulate wealth, grow their wealth. I think the coaching is so important that you talk about. I think being mentored is so important. And I really appreciate what you do for all of us dentists, and hope that you have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
If you would like a copy or you would like to receive a digital copy of Tim McNeely's book, Dental Wealth Nation, email your name to richard@simplifydds.com.